Is this the dagger?
G'day guys, JB here. The NBA regular season is over and done with. The playoffs are in full swing, and that has given me a bit of time to go back over everything for the 25-26 NBA season to be able to provide a summary and a rundown of each team in that regular season. Now, obviously, some of these guys will have more information leading into next year. They're in the playoffs. That's what we would expect. For others, the season is very much done, and there's not much else that's going to be coming of it. So I figured that we may as well just get this one out of the way. We will have our summaries of the round by round of the playoffs as it goes along. But ultimately here, the regular season is done, and there's no better time than the present to review all of that. So, without further ado, here is my end-of-year review for the 25-26 NBA season. Starting with the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Hawks at one point there were floating around that 5 or 6 seed, really slunk down the seedings towards the 9th and 10th seed, were struggling to get to 500, but a massive rally in the back half of the year saw them finish 46 and 36, 6th in the Eastern Conference, and making a nice run there towards the postseason. It'll be interesting to see exactly how their matchup goes, but a really nice season for them, even after trading out Trae Young and having a real lack of direction there at points. Their best player on the season for me, Jalen Johnson. You can see what I thought of Jalen Johnson's season in my end of season awards video, which I posted around a week ago. He had a very, very big season. Again, all NBA level season. At one point there was flirting with the top 10 of the MVP, in my opinion, and certainly one of the more improved players in the league. Their best defender, Dyson Daniels. I had him in my All-NBA nods. I thought he had another solid season. Most improved player, not only for the team, but certainly for the league, I had Gilgeous-Alexander Walker. Really, really big season for him. I had Muhammad Gay as their best sixth man. He had a really nice season, backing up the team there and playing that reserve role. While it was only a small amount of points and rebounds, he certainly was the consistent contributor from the bench. And Asia Newell, their best rookie. So Atlanta with a nice foundation to build on next year. They have cleared out the contract of Kristaps Porzingis, which they had earlier. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of moves they make in the postseason. Over to the Boston Celtics. Now, the Celtics managed to maintain a top 2 seed in the East despite losing Jason Tatum for the season, despite Drew Holiday moving on, Al Horford moving on, and Kristaps Porzingis moving on. A bunch of guys really lifting up, and Joe Mazzulla just weaving his magic, as we all know he can do. 56 and 26 record, second in the conference, by far and away a pass mark for the Celtics, who head into the postseason raring to go and looking like one of the favourites, if not the favourite, to come out of the East. Again, Joe Mazzulla, 4 straight 50-win seasons. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to the Celtics. Massive year for them. Their best player, and for me, one of the 3 best players eligible for the MVP award this year, Jaylen Brown. I thought he was the best US-born player this year. He has had a massive season, and it's flown under the radar a fair bit, simply because people didn't expect Boston to play well, and when they did, it automatically must be the team. But they would be sorely mistaken to just forget about how well Brown has played. Again, All-NBA first-teamer for me, and certainly top 3 in the MVP race. Their best defender, Derek White, I had him in the All-NBA all-defensive first-team conversation, and backing him up there, their most improved player of Namus Keita, I would have had him on the all-defensive second team. He was really pushing that selection there. Unfortunately for me, I don't think he's going to get it, but he had a really big season. There's no doubt about that. Their best six-man, Luka Garza, and that is taken away from the fact that Anthony Simons was their best six-man and that Peyton Pritchard rotated into that role. Unfortunately, just managed to play too many games there in the start, and of course, Simons was traded. And Hugo Gonzalez, I thought, was their best rookie. But plenty of upside for Boston moving forward. They are a team to watch moving into next season. They're a team to still watch right now in the postseason. We then move over to the Brooklyn Nets, who finished 13th in the conference. They lost 62 games. there isn't a great deal of upside beyond the fact that they clearly see something in Michael Porter Jr. They clearly see something in their young core. They have re-signed all of the coaching staff to multi-year extensions. Again, it's the only real upside that I can see happening with this team right now. Because again, you've just lost 62 games. Michael Porter Jr. played 50-odd and was a borderline all-star. Really good to see. But that's pretty much the nut and dry. The cut and dry, so to speak, of how this franchise went for the season. The Nets, 20 and 62. As I said, I think their best player was Michael Porter Jr., and I do feel, even though his opportunity was increased, that he was their most improved player. Nick Claxton, their best defender, and Daron Sharp played really nice off the bench. Now, Yegor Dioman isn't going to probably make an all-rookie team. I think he's going to be an honourable mention, especially when you factor in that he only played 52 games. You are eligible for the rookie team by only playing 52 games. But he did have some nice upside there, particularly from an overall shooting percentage. You do want to put a lot of pieces around him. He isn't the most efficient overall scorer, but he's a guy that can really shoot the rock, was able to produce double digits, and that's at least some sort of upside for the Nets. Over to the Charlotte Hornets. Now, the Hornets managed to make the play-in tournament. They broke above 500. They had arguably the best run in the East post All-Star break to really try and make some noise. They were bundled out. They were a good example, much like the Clippers and the Warriors, of exactly why we don't need the play-in tournament. But they did finish with a record above 500. They showed plenty of upside and they had plenty of promise. Again, a team to keep an eye on moving into 26-27. For me, I think their best player was Brandon Miller. Now, that's not to say that he was their most valuable, but I think on a night-in, night-out basis, when you look at the contributions that were being provided by him across the board, he was their best player this season. Now, if there were certain nominations that weren't going to be eligible for awards, Brandon Miller was going to start getting into contention for lower end of All-NBA third team, in my opinion. That's the season that he had. It is overshadowed by the fact that you do have Con Knipple looking for Rookie of the Year. You have LaMelo Ball playing really well, and that team really gelling together. But I think Brandon Miller was clearly their best player. In turn, not to overshadow Con Knipple, but Ryan Kalkbrenner, one of the better defenders in the league this year as a rookie, and certainly the best defensive rookie that we had on the league. He was anchoring that Charlotte defense, really allowing him to adjust to the NBA using his style, and I think that's a big win for them. I didn't have any most improved nominations, and this does stem from, if I was going to nominate someone for the most improved player of the year award, who would it be? And I couldn't find anyone out of Charlotte. I just think the team overall had a really nice step in growth. Sion James, I thought, was their best reserve. They did have Colin Sexton and Kobe White, but it's the amount of games that they played as a reserve consistently for that team. And without a shadow of a doubt, Con Knipple, the rookie of the year for Charlotte, I would have him second overall on the season. Really big run for him. Just tremendous, really alleviating some of the offensive pressure, and an elite efficiency guy on the offensive end. He's going to be crucial for Charlotte over the next couple of seasons. The Chicago Bulls had all the promise in the world and didn't deliver any of it. That's the saddest part about it, whether that's injuries that have been a concern, whether it was players not gelling, trading away pieces to contending teams, or bringing guys in that are no longer in the league. Chicago had a genuine roster shuffle that is, the most Chicago thing post Derrick Rose and post Michael Jordan. It was just another year for Chicago. Josh Giddey ended up being their best player, and that came down to the fact that they traded Nikola Vucevic. Vooch now the backup center for the Celtics and proving crucial for them. Giddey getting the Player of the Year nod for them, and outside of maybe the first half a dozen games, a very average season overall for the Bulls. And I thought Josh Giddey certainly didn't take any steps forward this year. Trey Jones, I thought, was their best defender. Matisse Buzelis, their most improved player. Buzelis proving really crucial in their rotation when they were on. Trey Jones, again, best defender, and I thought he was their best rotational piece that they had as far as the six-man's concerned, and very limited rookie minutes, but Lockie Ulbrich showing some signs here or there. The Bulls have a lot of work to do. They've created some cap space, but a lot of these guys here were backups or are backups on a bad team, and if they go to another team that's going to be contending, they're probably not going to be first, second or third fiddle either. So the Bulls really need to try and co-sign what they want to do and where they want to move forward in season 26-27, but it has to be up from a 51-loss season in 25-26. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they were floating around the 7th, 8th seed for a fair bit of the year until health started to catch up to them and players really started to find their niche and their role. Donovan Mitchell carrying a basket load of that work early on. Evan Mobley stepping up defensively. And of course, we know that James Harden joined the team towards the All-Star break there at the trade deadline. So that really helped Cleveland lift and get to 52 wins, not the 64 that they had last year, but when you factor everything in, the fact they only dropped 12 games, pretty impressive. It does also speak wonders comparatively of what Boston's been able to do. Again, big reason you have to consider Joe Mazzulla and Jaylen Brown in your award voting. For me, Donovan Mitchell, their best player, and I think their most valuable player. Everyone's going to talk about the alleviated offensive pressure that's now come with James Harden, and clearly the reliance on defense of other players such as a Craig Porter Jr. and, for me, Evan Mobley. But you have to really consider that the only reason this team was able to hold on to the 8th seed was the play of Donovan Mitchell. I've said it all season, and I will say it again, one of, if not the most important seasons of Donovan Mitchell's career. Their best defender, Evan Mobley, interestingly enough, didn't get a vote in the Defensive Player of the Year, and I still feel that I would have had him on my second team. That's the level that I still feel that he was playing. He had a very slow start. I can understand that that may impact voters, but my concern there is that we also had voters that were impacted by playing games and voting on the basis of let someone else have a turn. So I don't really know how that balances out. Jalen Tyson, a really nice lifted season for him. He was their most improved player. Craig Porter Jr. proving vital off the pine on both sides of the ball. He was their best six man. And as far as rookies getting minutes, again, not a high rookie minute team, but the Australian Tyrese Proctor having some really outstanding moments there at point guard. Product of Duke, and no doubt he'll be in the system for a number of years. Solid year for Cleveland. Everything considered, a nice rebuttal there and trying to prime themselves heading into the postseason. The Detroit Pistons. Well, we have a team that was dead last 2 years ago and is now one of 3 60-win teams in the regular season and have put themselves in the prime position to be, pretty much home court advantage through until the NBA Finals. If their team can stay healthy and they can put it together, this would be one of the most unlikely stories in the history of the NBA. Again, 6th largest turnaround in league history last year. They added 16 wins this year. JB Bickerstaff really has to be considered as one of, if not the coach of the year. And you look at the amount of guys they've been able to bring up to that next level to get that job done. There's no reason that he certainly can't be considered, and I certainly wouldn't be mad if he did. I thought he should have been coach of the year last year. Cade Cunningham got his exception to be available for MVP conversations and all NBA first team conversations. I thought that he should have been all NBA first team last year. Probably just falls to second team this year. And again, there's a lot of guys that stayed healthy and won games compared to guys who missed and won a lot of games. Cade unfortunately falls into the latter of that conversation there, and that's the only thing that's going to impact him. But if he makes all NBA first team, I totally understand it. Asar Thompson, their best defender, one of the 3 nominations for Defensive Player of the Year. Really big year by him. Continues to be one of, if not the elite perimeter defender in the league. The only other guy that probably has better perimeter defense is Wemby, and it does come down to the fact that he is 7'5". Jalen Duren improved to the point of being an all-star, a consistent 18 and 10 guy. He is going to be crucial for the Pistons. He needs to be that consistent second option all throughout the postseason, and looking forward for a couple of years, he would likely be one of the key big men in Team USA at the 28 Olympics. Ryan Holland, really nice contributions for him off the bench this year. I thought he was their best 6-man. Isaiah Stewart was chasing that at one point. And their best rookie, again, not a team with a great deal of rookie minutes, Chaz Lanier. So Detroit, one of 3 teams to win 60 games. 2 years ago, the worst team in the league. And they have a chance to have home court advantage through until the NBA Finals. The Pacers, they're a team that has just gone from the NBA Finals to a team that didn't win 20 games this year, with a lot of injury concerns, a few moving pieces, and guys to yet come back into the team. It'll be interesting to see how Indiana bounce back and what sort of roller coaster ride Pacers fans are in for in 26-27. Not much more to comment beyond that there. Pascal Siakam, for me, continued to be their best player. Was named an All-Star, in my opinion, deserved to be an All-Star. I wouldn't have voted for him, and again, it does come down to my preface of how I base things. But again, with how Siakam was playing, if he played in a winning team, he would have been an all-star. So, I can justify that selection. Jay Huff, their best defender, he stepped up over the last couple of seasons, particularly here with his role in Indiana, taking the mantle from a Miles Turner as far as that interior defense is concerned. Andrew Nembhard, obviously getting more of an opportunity this year. He certainly was one of the more improved players in the league, albeit in a bad side. I thought he played well. TJ McConnell still established himself as one of the preeminent 6-men in the league, and how crucial his role is with this team. And again, limited rookie minutes. I thought Ethan Thompson was the best rookie for the Pacers. 14th in the conference doesn't justify where they really are as a franchise. It will be next season where you truly see where they're at. The Miami Heat, 43-39 record, and this happened in 19 of 20 play-in/playoff teams, where 500 got you into the postseason as far as the play-in's concerned, but it didn't necessarily get you into the top 8 of each conference. That speaks of the competitive balance that was around the NBA this year. 10th in the conference, they didn't make it out of the play-in tournament. Ironically, the man who scored 83 was bundled out on the team's 83rd game. I think Bam Adebayo was still clearly the best player for the Heat this year. Again, a guy who would be an All-NBA third-team consideration, in my opinion, if there were a few people that weren't necessarily included and their arbitration hadn't worked, or that they hadn't snuck in on games. I thought Bam had a consistent year, probably his best season over the last couple of years, and sure, that 83-point game probably does put a bit of polish on it, but I still think that he was reasonable in his efforts. Drew Smith, I thought, was their best defender. Thought he played really, really well, was one of their key rotations. Speaking of key rotations, Hami Haquez bouncing back to form. I thought he was clearly the most improved player for the Heat and their best six-man. He was in the nominations for that as well. Kasparas Yakunis, their best rookie, but again, limited rookie minutes for the Miami Heat throughout this current season. I don't know whether they're going to a rebuild, but they are, evidently a mid-level team in a season where they could have been a lot higher, which does concern me as far as how competitive they're going to be. So I would think, going back to the drawing board, knowing how everyone's going to be healthy next year, the Heat have to do something to improve their chances. To the Milwaukee Bucks, they lost 50 games, and the ultimate conversation around them right now is going to be whether Giannis is there or not, and if he is there, what does this team look like? Nothing more, nothing less. Plenty of good positives there. You see them on screen. I thought Kevin Porter Jr. was their best defender this year. I thought Ryan Rollins was evidently one of the most improved players in the league, and certainly one of the most improved Bucks, if not the most improved Buck this year. And Bobby Porter's continuing to be a mainstay as far as their best six-man. But even with all the time that he missed, I can still make a case that Giannis Antetokounmpo was clearly the most valuable and best player for the Bucks this year. And that's a concern when you rely so heavily on a guy that you slump to 50 wins when he's not available. To 50 losses when he's not available. That's concerning, and that's where I think the Bucks are going to have to draw a line. Either they go absolutely firm and stick with Giannis for the remainder, for at least the next 3 to 4 years, and really try and build something around him, or move him on now and start from scratch. Best rookie, Cormac Ryan. Very, very limited minutes from a rookie standpoint for the Bucks. Again, 50-loss season. Plenty of upside where you want it, but the ultimate straw that's stirring this drink has been on the table and nowhere near the ice water for quite some time. The New York Knicks, somehow, in my opinion, still underperformed expectations. Preseason had them as the number 1 seed coming out of the East, and there were just points in the season where it didn't click and it never eventuated. They still managed 53 wins. They still had their usual leaders controlling the way they played. I guess that's the best way to put it, but there was a lot left on the table from the Knicks this year. There was some underwhelming efforts by some at points during the season, and that ultimately has proven to be a problem for them, and could be a problem for them in the postseason. We'll see exactly how they go. They are taking on Atlanta right now, but they need to at worst get to that second round and really try and make a statement. Because if they don't, then there's going to be more and more questions asked of the Knicks. And this man right here, I think he's the heart and soul of the team. You're talking about a guy who took a $115 million pay cut to try and get his guys in. And then for some reason they're now not performing where they need to be. Brunson, for me, I'd have him All-NBA first team. If he makes All-NBA second team, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd have him first team. Again, continues to be the heart and soul of the Knicks, and for me, I don't know a team that relies more on one guy's success than the New York Knicks do with Jalen Brunson. I thought their best defender was Mitchell Robinson on the year. Now, he didn't quite play enough games to qualify for the all-defensive team. Mikal Bridges would get the nod there, but again, Mitchell Robinson, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Jose Alvarado, that could be your ultimate defensive unit if you really want it to be. So the Knicks don't have an excuse as to why they can't perform to that level. Miles McBride, I thought, was their most improved. Jordan Clarkson, even with a new uniform, still continues to be one of the preeminent six men of the league. And Mohamed Diawara was their best rookie, but the Knicks could be the first seed. They've managed the third seed. Can they pull a rabbit out of the hat and make the conference final? Over to the Orlando Magic. They finished 8th in the conference, 45-37. And this is a team that has not been able to put it all together on the floor until, well, the start of these playoffs. They have been ravaged by injury on and off, on the floor for most of the season. They relied heavily on someone like a Desmond Bain to really step up throughout the year. Banchero wasn't having a red-hot start. Jalen Suggs didn't play 65 games. Franz Wagner didn't play 65 games. So there's a lot of questions around Orlando. Some saying to blow it up. For me, I still think you have to wait until you get a full season, but you then potentially run the risk of doing what the Clippers did with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, where you weren't able to actually get them all on the floor at once. But Orlando, still scraping the 8th seed, managed to split the first 2 games of their playoff run against the first seed Pistons. So, who knows what can happen. It's a very interesting time of year is the NBA playoffs. For me, Banchero did recover enough to be their best player this year. Again, a guy who was really down on the precipice and the potential of an All-NBA third-team selection had some players not been available. I thought Jalen Suggs was their best defender. I think he's one of the most underrated defenders in the league, and a guy who very well could be making an all-defensive team if he is healthy. Anthony Black, clearly the most improved player there for Orlando. At one point, I thought he was their best defender and their best six-man, so he proved to be as pivotal a rotational piece as anybody on the team. Of course, got him for most improved. Tristan Da Silva really started to own that six-man role through the middle and back half of the year, and managed for me to get enough done to get claim on that. And Noah Pender, their best rookie. Again, Orlando, they need to get a season under their belt with Wagner, Banchero and Bain all playing 60-plus games together. If they can do that, we'll then see exactly where they are. I think it's better than a 45-win team, but again, Orlando managed to break 500 for essentially the 4th year in a row. There's not much of a conversation about it. Because 45-37 is the exact record that the Philadelphia 76ers have, and everybody can't believe how good they are considering the injuries that they've had. Now, I absolutely agree with that. Philadelphia is the 7th seed, 45-37. The injuries and outs that they had, particularly around Paul George, Joel Embiid, and in very small stints, Tyrese Maxey. But you then can't sit there and say that one side absolutely can have an outlier of a series and manage to steal one, and then say to the other one, well, you just don't have a chance, right? Like, the balance of the equation there is not there from the media. The consistency is not there from the media. I'm here to say this, that peak for peak, I would absolutely take that Philadelphia team over Orlando. But based on what we've seen over the last 3 years from all players involved, I'd be more comfortable with having the Orlando Magic team than the Philadelphia team right now. And that's not a shot, because Tyrese Maxey to me was a top 10 NBA player this year, has to get an All-NBA nod somewhere along the line. VJ Edgecombe would be 3rd in my Rookie of the Year voting, and he has been as consistent on both sides of the ball as any rookie that we've seen this year. But it is the other talent around them that just needs to get some consistency under it. Again, their best rookie and arguably the best defender in VJ Edgecombe. That's great. Quentin Grimes, one of the better six-men of the year this year. But you've got to rely on the fact that you've got Paul George and Joel Embiid on the team. When they're healthy, absolutely great. A really tough to stop combo. When they're not healthy, they're just absolutely not there. And trying to win a playoff game when you're short of your elite players becomes very, very difficult, let alone trying to do it for an entire 82-game campaign. But the 76ers, 7th in the conference, we'll see exactly what they can do. Looks like Grimes is going to re-sign. They're going to maintain Edgecombe and Maxey, but it's what they do after those guys around Paul George and Joel Embiid that will be crucial for this franchise next season. Over to Toronto. So as you can see, Toronto, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Orlando were split by a game. Toronto, 5th, 46th, and 36, sitting that split difference above the Atlanta Hawks, and a team that just flew under the radar and were around that 4th, 5th seed pretty consistently all year. Faded a little late. We saw a resurgence of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So all of a sudden, the top 4 seeds of Detroit, Boston, New York, that all makes sense. Cleveland, that all makes sense. Toronto just weren't fitting that bill. So when they dropped down, everyone was like, well, we told you so. But at the same time, Toronto had plenty of upside to them this year. For me, their best player and best defender, a guy who should be getting an all-defensive nod and an all-NBA nod, Scotty Barnes, one of the best years of his young career so far. Consistently their best player night in, night out, and again, consistently their best defender as well. When you look at their best rookie, Colin Murray-Boyle's a guy that was able to jump in on the rotation, a guy who was able to have major impact on both sides of the ball and really start to impact how that game's played. He was as crucial coming up through the ranks, particularly when you've got Jakob Poeltl to learn under, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly and Brandon Ingram. You were able to just develop the depth of that team. And of course, not necessarily the easiest name to pronounce, but we will have a go at it there. For me, their most improved player and certainly their sixth man was Sandru Mamukelashvili. He had a really nice season for the Raptors. Again, thought he was their most improved player, and I thought he was their best rotation. You're talking about a Toronto team there, genuinely can run 7 or 8 deep, and no one really bats an eyelid at it. That's pretty crucial when you go into a postseason and minutes start to get tight and extended. So they're certainly going to be up for it in the battle that they have against Cleveland. Cleveland very well could just go straight over the top of them with their offensive firepower, but I certainly wouldn't want to rule out the Raptors at this stage. And then we get to the Washington Wizards, who had the absolute worst record in basketball, traded for Trae Young and Anthony Davis, who have, all but not played for the team, and are sitting there saying, "Get us out of here," because if we're not willing to play for a team that's not willing to contend for a title, and this is a team full of nothing but young guys. So, in my opinion, you're looking at a Washington team that is up a very familiar creek for a lot of people, and there are no oars in the boat. Absolutely no oars in the boat. I thought their best player and their best defender was Alex Sarr. He did only have a limited number of games this year, but as far as impact on winning and in turn the impact he had on the defensive end, at one point there he was one of, if not the leading rim protectors in the league. That's the kind of option that you're going to have there. Someone at 7'2", can handle the ball, can play offensively and can get it done defensively. Keyshawn George was their most improved player. Bub Carrington was their best was their best sixth man, and I thought young Will Riley had a really nice go-around of it as well. But ultimately there, Washington, the absolute worst team in the NBA in 25-26. Going over to the Western Conference, the Dallas Mavericks finished 12th in the conference. They had a fire sale to clear out everybody but Kyrie Irving and role players for this team to be assumed automatically as Cooper Flagg, and that is exactly what he did. I would have Cooper Flagg not only as the best rookie of the Dallas Mavericks, but certainly as the rookie of the year. And I do actually think he was their best player this year. I mean, for some idea, in 26 wins, I had him responsible for 10 of them. Pretty impressive for a 19-year-old. Dwight Powell, I thought, was their best defender. I think Max Christie was their most improved player. A guy who, everyone talks about, how one-sided that Lakers trade was, and absolutely it was. Luka Doncic going to the Lakers is clearly one-sided against the Dallas Mavericks, but you have to consider exactly what Max Christie was bringing for the Lakers and what he's able to continue to bring as far as Dallas is concerned. So he's been having a nice impact there, and Brandon Williams proving to be as crucial a rotation for Dallas as anybody this year. The Mavs, they have brought all in on Cooper Flagg. Let's see exactly what they do moving forward. How does Kyrie Irving fit into this equation? But yeah, Dallas, even though they only had the 56 wins, 30 games below 500, they have the next generation basketballer that they wanted, and we'll see whether he can take the mantle from Luka. The Denver Nuggets, third in the conference. They were at times looking like they might be a contender for the 1 seed. At times looked like they may fall as low as 6th, but they managed to get things on track towards the back end of the season, secure the 3rd seed, and genuinely look like one of the 3 teams that can come out of the West. 54-28 record, led by that man on screen once again, Nikola Jokic, their best player. And for me, I actually thought that Jokic was at times their best defender, if not consistently their best defender on a game-by-game basis. The guy with a chance to compete for that, though, was Peyton Watson. I thought he had a really nice year, really showed exactly what he could do during the points of the season where Jokic was out, and his opportunities rose even further. Tim Hardaway Jr. nominated as one of the 3 sixth men of the year, and noticeably no apologies from the media, who suggested after the 2024 finals that he should find a career elsewhere or that he should be playing somewhere else. Real basketball fans have long memories, unlike the NBA media, who seem to forget exactly what they said 10 minutes ago, let alone what happened last season. Daron Holmes, the best rookie for Denver in the minutes that he got, but one of the big crucial parts of this year was the health of Jamal Murray, who, to me, solidified himself as one of the leading 2 guards in the league, getting his All-Star selection, and for me should be getting an All-NBA selection. One of the best down the stretch players in the league. Again, healthy, stayed the journey, put in points, produced when it mattered. He was as crucial to this team as Nikola Jokic. Now, I didn't have Jokic as one of my 3 nominations for the MVP award, but he did have a really, really big season once again. Statistically hard to argue with. Led the league in boards and assists. Can Denver do something with it now in the postseason? The Golden State Warriors have delivered their worst season realistically with a semi-healthy team for the better part of a dozen years. 37-45 record, and there is a genuine chance that Steve Kerr has coached his last game for this team and that they start to really look in a different direction with Steph Curry on the very back end of his career. I still think that he was the best player for the Warriors this year, even though he didn't play in 65 games. His contributions were just outstanding comparatively to the rest of his squad. Al Horford, I thought, was their best defender, a nice acquisition for them from Boston, and Kristaps Porzingis eventually came along as well. The big story coming out of this, though, ultimately, 2 big stories for the year. Number 1, Jimmy Butler going down with an ACL injury, proving crucial when Golden State had just reached that 500 mark or got within 5 or 6 games above it. That injury and other concerns really put the wheels backwards, so to speak, for the Warriors on the year. And, of course, the Jonathan Kuminga saga, which saw him head over to Atlanta and proved crucial as a rotation for them to get them up to the 6th seed that they are now. Didn't have any players that I would have put right up there for the most improved player award, but if I had to pick one, it probably would have been Pods. Brandon Podziemski had a really nice season for them as their best 6-man. Guy Santos had a really nice year as well. Again, the only concern that you have with those 2 guys is that they had to play leading roles for a lot of the time, and that does speak volumes of where your franchise is when they're needing to play a lead role. Will Richard was their best rookie, but for Golden State, what does next year look like? From a coaching standpoint, what does next year look like from a player standpoint? We could see a very different Warriors lineup at the start of 26-27. The Houston Rockets. Fred VanVleet gets injured at the start of the year. Kevin Durant makes his way over. They win games. They go into a slump. There's a burner account Twitter saga, and yet they still manage to finish top 6th in the West, 52-30 record. And all of a sudden, though, concerns around the team's ability to perform in the postseason against an underhand Lakers team. They currently sit 0-2 in that matchup against the purple and gold. For me, their best player was Kevin Durant, despite all of the situations that were going on with the team, to the point where I think Kevin Durant is going to certainly push towards the All-NBA 3rd team. If he makes the 2nd team, I won't be shocked. I would have him on the 3rd team. I don't think he was better than a player such as a Kawhi Leonard or a Nikola Jokic this year, but he had a really nice season, notably for Durant, passed Michael Jordan in all-time points and really cemented himself as one of the preeminent scorers, not only of his generation, but in the history of the league. Their best defender was Armin Thompson, and I think he's going to, somewhere along the line, get an all-defensive nod. I thought he played really, really well. There was a lot more of a two-way nature to his game this year. We saw him relied upon more on the offensive end than previously, but he was still very much there defensively. A guy who probably could have got a nomination for Most Improved Player and 6th Man of the Year, Reed Shepherd. Now, we're talking about a guy who could barely get out of the G League last year in his own rookie class to now be sitting there as one of the preeminent rotation players for the association. Really nice work for him. Could be a question about whether Houston should have backed him in sooner as far as 6th man or potentially starting in place of VanVleet. And no rookie minutes there for the Rockets this year. They were all senior players. Can they turn it around from 0-2? That is the ultimate question at the time of recording, keeping in mind LeBron James is 32-0 when he leads teams to a 2-0 series start. And we mentioned this guy just before, and another example for me of A, how the competition balance has been. We're talking about a 9th seed here who finished above 500, but B, it didn't matter because they didn't do anything in the play-in tournament and they were out straight away. And the top 8 of both conferences made it straight through to the postseason. There was really no need for any form of argument. The Los Angeles Clippers, though, turning it around from a 6-21 record at one point there. I believe they were 3-18 and then went 18-3, something ridiculous like that. just a huge run by the Clippers to turn it around. And a lot of it does come down to the fact Kawhi Leonard had one of the 5 best years of his career. Probably his best or second best year ever as a Clipper. Could potentially be his last, depending on the investigation into his contract. But I thought Kawhi was a real standout for them this year, and I think it was a real standout across the league. I wouldn't be shocked to see Kawhi Leonard making an All-NBA second team this year. At worst, he is third team. He's had a really, really good run, staying healthy. Ironically, played 65 games compared to a lot of other guys who don't quote-unquote load manage like Kawhi. For some reason, the degenerative issues that he's had just get swept under the rug. He's an injured guy who just doesn't turn up. But I thought he was their best player, and I thought he was their best defender this year. Jordan Miller, for me, was their best six-man, and he was consistent all throughout the year. Whether that was when Zubats was with the team and Harden was with the team, or the revamp there under Darius Garland, Miller consistently turned up off the bench night in and night out. Real staple for that team, and he's going to be important moving forward, regardless of whether Leonard's on the team. And Kobe Sanders, their best rookie. But again, we've got a team that's 500 that didn't make the postseason. It was another example of, well, we didn't really need the playing tournament because, the top 8 from each conference made it. But it does come down now to a conversation of where Kawhi Leonard stands with his franchise by the end of the contract investigation and in turn to start 26-27. The Los Angeles Lakers, the first full season under Luka Doncic, and he absolutely snatched away the identity of this team to be his from the very get-go. Now, it was a bit of a slower start comparatively to some of his peers, but Luka pulled away to win the scoring title and won it by a couple of points, might I add, as far as per game is concerned. Proved to be the number one guy on this team, the straw that stirred that drink. There was a lot of ice cubes floating around in it at one time there. Big effort by Luka. Lakers get the 4th seed. They weren't going to get any higher than that pre the start of the year. So for them to get there, really good work. They were about the 3rd seed before Luka was out injured, and of course got the exception due to the birth of his children during the year to get 65 games. So he will be, no doubt, an All-NBA first-team selection. Was not a top 3 MVP candidate. I had him in 5th, and I wouldn't be surprised whether he finishes 4th or 5th in the race overall. He was the Lakers' best player, and this is probably the indictment of where the Lakers really sit. I thought he was their best defender this year. Now, that's not to throw an insult to some of the guys that were playing some really good defense, but it does speak volumes to where that team can truly peak when Luka Doncic is your best defender, because while Luka put in some effort in places, he's on a national TV game, a major international broadcast, of course he's going to put in the effort. It still wasn't the same as it would be if a Kawhi Leonard was putting in that effort. And I'm not saying that they're by far they're the same player. In fact, they're reasonably comparable from an all-time scale when you look at the All-NBA teams and the finals and the conference finals that Luka's delivered versus Kawhi Leonard's limited but immediate success that he's had. But it does speak volumes of where that team sits, that Luka Doncic potentially was their best defender. Most improved player, that was easy. Austin Reeves had a nice breakout season. Jake LaRavia, the ever-reliable rotation that they've had, and Abdou Thiero getting limited rookie minutes. But the Lakers, 4th in the conference, they are currently 2-0 against the Houston Rockets in the first round, and they are doing it without Reeves and Doncic, who are looking at 2nd round or 3rd round returns should the team make it that far. The Memphis Grizzlies, 25-57 record, 13th in the conference, a team that was 5 games below 500 for around a month there at one point, and then decided to blow it up essentially, getting rid of Jaren Jackson Jr., resting other stars, trying to manage minutes and injuries. I'm not saying they went into the tank, but it was very similar to what a lot of other teams did that were further out of contention than what Memphis were. We'll see what they can do next year. Ja Morant is going to be the question. Who else they get in Memphis, who knows? But it's been pretty clear right now that everyone you've traded away hasn't been the issue, because their teams have survived and thrived in the new environments they've been in, albeit Jaren Jackson Jr. does have to find a new space to improve on that front there. But ultimately, I think Ja Morant is the piece that needs to move, and I think Memphis need to go in a new direction there. For me, Santi Aldama was actually their best player this year, and when you look at that, that really does say exactly where this team's at. Their best defender, Vince Williams Jr. I thought Cam Spencer was really nice, not only as their most improved player, but certainly as a 6-man, and some really positive minutes at times out of Cedric Coward. He would be amongst my honourable mentions as one of the better as part of one of the better rookie classes, and one of the better rookies in that class for this season. A guy who flew under the radar simply because he was playing in Memphis, but he had a really nice year comparatively. 25-57. they need to do something, whether that's getting rid of Jar and building again, or they then start to play some pieces around him. Who knows? But Memphis not in a great spot, particularly after 57 losses. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they once again made the top 6 of the West, and they are currently in a dogfight with Denver, one of the better, more recent rivalries in the NBA over the last 5 years. 1-1 through their 2 games in their playoff series. 49-33 injuries pretty much prevented them from breaking 50 wins once again. But this is a team, as we know, that can time their run at any point, manage to get the job done and really get over the line. It's exactly what they're looking to do now. Anthony Edwards was their best player this year. He was a player that did apply for an exception as far as All-NBA is concerned, and it was not granted. If it had been granted, I can tell you now that Anthony Edwards, to me, would have been an All-NBA third-team member. No questions asked around that one. Really nice year for him when he was on the floor. I thought Jaden McDaniels was their best defender, which is mind-boggling considering Rudy Gobert finished 4th in Defensive Player of the Year. And I think both players would have been honourable mentions on any all-defensive team. Certainly not top 10. But I was shocked there that McDaniels wasn't actually considered to be a higher ranking there than Rudy Gobert. Now, in saying that, I do have him as their most improved player this season. Part of that comes down to the fact that Gilgeous-Alexander Walker has left the team, so therefore he's had to shoulder more of the offensive load. And that's one thing that I have noticed, that when a known defender becomes more offensively inclined, all of a sudden his defensive focus is totally taken away, and it's like he was never there. But don't have it mistaken. Even though his offensive numbers lifted for McDaniels, he was still their best defender. For me, I couldn't believe Naz Reid didn't get a top 3 nomination. I thought he was clearly the best player from the Pine this year in the league. I thought he was the 6th man of the year. His numbers weren't the same as the year that he did win it, but it also comes down to impact and what you're doing in wins. And for me, he was clearly the best 6th man across the league in winning sides. Joan Berringer, he showed moments as well as a rookie for what he's going to be able to do to this team. They managed to just find guys that are going to plug holes. The only question for Minnesota moving forward over the next 2 seasons particularly are exactly when are they going to take that step to be a perennial top 3 contender in the West, and along with Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, who's going to take that next step to really put a hand up and say, hey, we're the Minnesota Timberwolves and we're here to stay. The New Orleans Pelicans lost 56 games on the year. They struggled to get rotations out of quality players that they have brought in, such as a Kevon Looney and such as a Jordan Poole. Limited minutes for veterans such as DeAndre Jordan. There was a plus side, of course, to see Dejounte Murray back from his Achilles injury. No talk about that whatsoever because the team isn't performing. Here's a guy that's been an all-star, an all-league defender, and no mention of his return. A little bit disappointing. You did see the consistent contributions of a Trey Murphy and a Herb Jones. You also saw the likes of Sadiq Bey playing well, Jeremiah Fears, the lead rookie, Derek Queen playing really, really well. But part of the narrative of this season also, again, comes back to Zion Williamson and the fact that he once again was put onto weight concerns and dieting issues on a team where at the start of the year he was coming in apparently as the fittest and best Zion that we've ever seen, which is absolutely contrary to the performances that were provided. At one point there, he was one of their lead rotations as far as a 6-man's concerned. That's not what you want out of a guy who was blowing himself out of his own shoes at Duke and proving that he can be a monster in this league when he is up and about and when he is fit. If he can get 65 games under his belt and New Orleans can win games, you've got an All-NBA guy right there. That's exactly what he brings. But he's bringing that wrapped up in a gift box that has been heavily damaged and you don't quite know whether you want to open it again. Again, just to rehash exactly what New Orleans were able to bring to the table, I thought Trey Murphy was their best player this year. I thought Herb Jones was their best defender. Derek Queen, honourable mention as far as the rookie class is concerned. Dejounte Murray coming back, nice. Sadiq Bey contributing as well. But I thought Jeremiah Fears was not only their best 6-man at times, but also their best rookie. New Orleans stuck in the mud down in Louisiana. No sign that anything but a Gator is going to bail them out. We then go to the other side of the equation and we go to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I predicted to win 65 games at the start of the year and won 64. Finished with the best record in the league by 2 games. Finished with probably the MVP. Finished with one of the 3 best defenders in the league. And I still think that was the wrong one, mind you. And I think the guy deserves a mention as far as how well he played defensively. But I don't think he was their best defender. Finished with one of the best rotation players in the league, managed to get depth out of their team ridiculously through 10 through 15 when injury started to pop up. Weathered the storm from, potentially looking about winning 75 games to, geez, you're going to struggle to hold the first seed. And for the third year in the row, the Oklahoma City Thunder finishes the number one seed in the West, and the best player on their team, for me, would be winning his third MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Massive year. Again, the Thunder absolutely rolling. Their only concern, realistically, is a matchup with the Spurs and a fit Wemby. Of course, the concern, and we'll touch on Wemby soon, is the knock that he has taken in his second playoff game. For me, I actually thought their best defender was Cason Wallace, and I'd have him all defensive first team, and I would have had him fifth in defensive player of the year voting. That's how good of a season that I feel that he had. Now, is there more of a bias to Wallace because of a more perimeter style of play in the league today? Absolutely, and that's not to discredit someone like a Chet, who I thought certainly would be going into that all-defensive second team. We're talking about a team with that level of depth, but I still feel Cason Wallace was their best defender. Their most improved player, AJ Mitchell, and their best six-man, AJ Mitchell, getting more minutes, getting amongst the rotation, proving to be a difference, adding to that extra depth that the Thunder so desperately didn't need. Really helped bolster their record. Again, I predicted them for 65. They got to 64. They're the number one seed in the postseason. They're a red-hot chance to go back-to-back. For the Phoenix Suns, they finished 7th in the conference, and I don't know a team that was more consistent with their seeding beyond the very top of the table this year than Phoenix. It felt like they started the season at 7th and never moved out of it there. Devin Booker, again, another big year for him, ineligible for All-NBA selection, and I can tell you now that he would have been right in the conversation around that second and third team had he been available. Another big year for him. 47-35 record for the Suns. It's just really unfortunate for them that they couldn't get over the line a little bit further. They did manage to survive and get through, obviously, to a first-round matchup. They lost their first playing game, made the second one. All that really did was move them from the Spurs to the Thunder, and the Thunder are not taking them lightly. They are wanting to put the foot on the gas. But again, for the Suns, sat in 7th most of the season, 47-35 record, recovering after getting rid of Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. I thought they could potentially be a bottom 5 team. And here they are in a playoff series, when realistically they're only one guy away from being elevated to that next level potentially in the West. I would be keeping an eye on someone like a Domantas Sabonis to see if anything happens there. Yes, when you look at Oso Gildora, that's Oso Deora. I will get that right. I do apologise for that one there. He was their best defender. Most improved player, Colin Gillespie. He was one of the leading most improved candidates on the season. Jordan Goodwin, he was their best six-man. I really liked what he was able to bring to the team, just adding depth to the rotation and really playing a crucial role, considering that Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green missed significant time all throughout the year. But ultimately, I thought he was their best six-man, and Rasheed Fleming getting those limited minutes for the rookies. So Phoenix, again, just floated around exactly where we thought they would be if they were going to be in contention, and that being the 7th seed. Again, I do just want to get that name right from the Phoenix standpoint, and I do apologise for that there. There's one thing I can't stand, it's getting that wrong there. So Oso Iguodaro, I do apologise for that there. He was their best defender. To the Portland Trailblazers, a team that started the year in as high a controversy as you possibly could, with links to gambling and potential match fixing. It wasn't said, but read between the lines. Interim head coach, a young team of misfits trying to break in a new star, a returning veteran on an injury contract. What are they going to do? Well, they went 42-40. They finished as the official 7th seed after starting the play-in as the 8th seed, and they now sit 1-1 against the San Antonio Spurs. A big part of that comes down right there to Denny Avdia. Massive season for him. We're going to see him in an All-NBA Guernsey, I believe. He was an All-Star as earned. Just a massive year for him. Most improved compared to last season, and those who paid attention last year saw this was coming. And that's exactly what happened. Massive year for him. Able to get over the top and get the job done. and he's going to be vital moving forward. He's on a lower end contract for big production. No doubt he is going to want to get paid at some point. The only question that now lies over that is the new management at Portland. What sort of impact is that going to have on him potentially getting a contract in the future as far as big money is concerned? Thought he was their most improved player along with their MVP. I thought Donovan Clingan was an honourable mention for the all defensive teams around the league, let alone being the best defender for Portland. Proved really crucial as that anchor piece. And I thought their best rookie and best six-man was Caleb Love. He really added to what this rookie class is going to be. I think it's one of the deeper rookie classes that we've seen in quite some time. Of course, you can't really judge this until 4 years into their career, but when you factor in that someone like Caleb Love has been as crucial a player for a team in the 8th seed and no one has talked about it, I think it speaks volumes to the depth that this class has. The Sacramento Kings went old with big money and paid the price with 60 losses. It's as simple as that. Some real injury concerns there, particularly with the Sabonis, but DeRozan, Levine, Westbrook, they were the front and centre of this team. And again, 22 and 60, 14th in the conference. I thought Westbrook was their best player, which is a lot considering they signed him the day before the season started. I thought DeMar DeRozan was their best defender, and you can make of that as you wish. Malik Monk, one of the leading six men of the year, well, he wanted to be out of the team for quite some time, and Maxime Reynaud was their best rookie and one of the leading rookies. That's all well and good, but when you don't have a plan for how you're going to incorporate young guys, and you've got old guys running the show that aren't getting the production, you have to wonder exactly where this franchise is at. And right now, it's not in a good position. Turning the tables from 20 and 62 to 62 and 20, Mitch Johnson nominated as one of the coaches of the year for turning this franchise around by almost 30 wins. Victor Wembanyama already voted the Defensive Player of the Year and one of the 3 finalists for the MVP. Keldon Johnson won Sixth Man of the Year, and I don't even think he was the best sixth man on his team. You've got one of the best defensive lineups in the league, and the Spurs, when healthy and when fit, are a team that could win a title this year. The concern right now at the time of recording is after a 1-1 split with Portland, Victor Wembanyama into concussion protocols. How he looks moving forward, we don't know. But this is not a player that you will want to run the risk with, even as the second seed in the West with the chance of winning a title. Victor, by far and away their best player this year, by far and away the best defender in the league. Like, here's a guy right now, I've got no issues with saying he is, to me this season, the second best player in the NBA. And it's close, but I have no issues saying that he was the second best player in the NBA this year. I don't lose any sleep over it. And that's ahead of Jokic. That's ahead of Brown. That's ahead of Tatum. That's ahead of Cunningham. That's ahead of Maxey. That's ahead of Donovan Mitchell. That's ahead of Kevin Durant. It's a massive, massive year for him. Just sensational. I mean, this is a guy who should have 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. He should have won it in his rookie year. People didn't want to vote for him. People have now admitted that they didn't want to vote for him because he's going to win plenty anyway. It's not how this works. Watch the games, make a judgment, record your judgment, submit your vote. The year goes for 82 games. I'm a punter with a full-time job and plenty of volunteer commitments outside of it. I can keep a track of it. So what are the people paid to cover the game really doing? On top of that, I don't think they had any most improved player nominations, but I do think that their best rookie was also their best six man. I thought it was Dylan Harper. Now, Keldon Johnson, he had some good contributions, but I don't think that their best defender, I don't think their best six man was actually the six man of the year. I think it was Dylan Harper. And part of that there is, can you really vote for someone like Dylan Harper to be six man of the year when he's going to be up there in potential rookie of the year candidacy? I think he'd be an all-rookie first-teamer, but I think he was also their best six-man. Side note, I wouldn't have had him in the conversation as the best six-man in the league, but he played pretty well. Spurs in a really promising spot, albeit concussion concerns right now for Wemby, but they are a win-now team, and they have probably another decade left of it. And finally, we go to another 60-loss team in the Utah Jazz. They had their moments throughout the year, and they have got some really nice pieces moving forward next year when you consider that they will have Markkanen, they will have Keontae George, they will have Jaren Jackson Jr., and they will have Walker Kessler back into the team. Add in the fact that someone like a Bryce Sensabaugh has had a really nice season. Joseph Nurkic is going to pinch hit where he can, and Ace Bailey as a rookie. You're looking at a 7 or 8 deep team, but they're going to have to be on the floor and they're going to have to be competitive. The Jazz, dead last and tied for the second worst record in basketball this year. One of the worst, the worst in the West at least. One of the 5 worst, I would say, in the league. 22-60 record. Keontae George was not only their most improved player, but their best player. Their best defender for me was Joseph Nurkic. Bryce Sensabaugh was their 6th man of the year, and Ace Bailey was their rookie of the year. And I'd give Ace Bailey an all-rookie second team. But for Utah, just a dismal year. A team that went into the tank and didn't come out of it. Anyway, guys, that has been me. That has been my end-of-year review for the 25-26 NBA season. How did you see your team perform? Did you have any different nominations to what I did as far as their best player, their best defender, their best rookie, their best 6-man, and the most improved player on the roster? Be sure to let me know what you think. As I said, there are some nominations that went up this year that I didn't think were correct. But, we all see the game through a different lens. I see it in totality of 82 games. Other people tend to only see it based on anything from March onwards and aren't able to really keep up with a full season. Scary, considering they are paid to cover the game. Anyway, guys, that has been me. That is my end-of-year review for the 25-26 NBA season. Be sure to stick around for some of my playoff coverage as we go through, and I will be endeavouring to get my greatest players of all time list updated in the off-season. Anyway, guys, that's been me. I'm out.